the Ohio River. As you can tell from looking at it today, the Fisherman Pier down here at Limestone Landing is underwater. The icebreakers put in around 1905, 1906 is about 2 feet out of the water. So the river's up about 15 feet at the moment, higher than normal. Maysville's had a love-hate relationship with the old river for years. Especially during January of 1937. About the 2-week stretch there toward the end of the month, the river went from 33 feet up to 50 feet flood stage and then up to 74.425 feet. The highest it's ever been, leaving Maysville about half of it underwater. Once the river went back down into its banks, it was reported in the newspapers there was $5 million worth of damage. Now you remember, this is during the actual Great Depression, where money was really tight. The city leaders decided it's time to get involved with doing something about the floods here. So let's go back in time, between 1938 to 1956. I'll show you how Maysville dealt with the problem of flooding from the mighty Ohio River. Within 18 months of the most devastating flood in Maysville, Kentucky's history, on 28 June 1938, the Flood Control Act was passed by Congress. This allowed the appropriation of funds for partial accomplishment of a comprehensive flood control plan for the whole entire Ohio River Basin, which includes Maysville. November 1956, the Floodwall was reality for the town of Maysville, Kentucky. The Public Ledger put in entire few pages regarding the history of this monumental project that has more than paid for itself since its inception. Citizens of Maysville got involved by approving a bond for $275,000 toward the cost of the project. 10 January 1949, President Truman's budget message to Congress includes recommendations for appropriation of $1 million for work on the local Floodwall project. Wow. 12 July 1949. Work on the Floodwall starts. The first shovelful of dirt, which was broadcasted over WFTM radio, was turned on the Dietrich Nursery Farm east of the Dietrich Greenhouse and north of the C&O tracks. Section 1, which started at the Dietrich Farm and the C&O tracks, moved northwest to Goose Creek, near the Ohio River. The last shovelful of dirt was finished on 7 December of the same year. Lots of activities going on to get this project rolling now. On 12 April, machinery arrives and work begins on Section 2. Section 2, which is all earthen levee, runs between Goose Creek westward to Walnut Street. On 1 June, bid for construction of the new box culvert at the mouth of Limestone Creek opened, with a low bid of $208,510.30 submitted by L.B. Strandberg and Sons, Chicago, Illinois. A little squabble started up on 13 September. Petition presented engineers to make Limestone Market Street levee of concrete rather than earth. Engineers answered that cost would be prohibitive. Just think, we almost wound up with an earthen levee, which is now the parking lot of the French Quarter Inn all the way down to Market Street. I'll talk more about this squabble here a little later. It appears the Ohio River doesn't want to give up flooding Maysville. On 28 September, high water halts work on the big culvert at Goose Creek and interferes with the work on the Limestone Creek culvert. Section 2, mostly earthen levee, was 75% completed and work stops until spring. So things are starting to look up here in Maysville. 15 January of 1951, $1 million for Maysville Floodwall construction work included in the budget proposed by President Truman. 12 May 1951, work begins on Section 3. Mayor Rebecca Hord sends word telegram to 23 senators and U.S. representatives asking support of 1 million requests for the floodwall. Access to the Maysville Cemetery was part of the plan for the floodwall project here in town. Let me show you what history says about using of the cemetery grounds. 16 October 1951, city gets easement through Maysville Cemetery and remains of 200 persons interred there are to be removed. Another squabble to mention while the floodwall is being built. 14 June, unless question of indemnity to Maysville Water Company can be worked out, U.S. Corps of Engineers threatens to bypass property and leave hole in floodwall. My goodness. 6 days later, City of Maysville files petition in condemnation suit against Maysville Water Company to obtain easement and temporary right-of-way through company property. 5 August, pour first concrete on floodwall proper under contract for construction of Section 3. Section 3 work starts at Walnut Street and heads down to Limestone Creek. The floodwall project involved getting a little bit of access to the Maysville Cemetery. Let's show you what history says about that. 14 November. Wall begun in cemetery area almost a year after the city completed on December 20, 1951, work of removing dead from that section. The downtown squabble continues. 6 January. Concrete wall instead of earthen levee from Limestone to Market Street virtually assured. The debate was up to make this area an earthen levee versus having that wall. Now how cool would that have been if this would have been an earthen levee between Limestone Street and Market, which is just a few hundred yards behind you. Looks like this decision is going to cost them some more money. April 7. Mayor Hord announces calling a public meeting to consider concrete wall rather than earthen levee for section between Limestone and Market, pointing out that while city would be required to pay $55,800 added to the cost, it would save $20,000 on right-of-way. Roughly 2 weeks later, 25 April, Maysville Mason County Development Association, given until May 4th, we got a deadline now, to raise the $55,800 needed to obtain concrete wall instead of earthen levee between Limestone and Market. Engineers saying they will not ask for alternate bids until money is raised. Oh my, the squabble is really heating up now. That would have been pretty unusual. Unfortunately, the city leaders decided against it. March 1954. One squabble gets solved. To close out all differences between City and Maysville Water Company, the Commission votes unanimously to pay company sum of $556.61. 9 July. Decision reached at Joint City Floodwall Committee meeting to have barrier between Limestone and Market Streets built of concrete rather than that of earthen levee. And action also is taken for acquirement of adjacent ground for parking purposes. Were you ever curious as to why the concrete floodwall has a big turn in it where the Welcome to Maysville sign is? Well, now you know. 14 July 1954. Work on Section 4 is begun by Maxon Company. As concrete work near end of Limestone Creek levee and extension is virtually finished. Section 4 is from Limestone Street all the way to West 2nd Street near the train station on the west end of town. Work being done near the Point, which is just east of Limestone Creek. 9 March, unfinished flood wall provides welcome protection in the east end of the city as river crest at 60.3 feet. Flood wall is already doing its job and it's not even completed yet. 30 March 1955, the flood wall work again halted in area of textile mill as further damage results in work stoppage at January and Woods. One of the very few boo-boos that happened while this flood wall was being built is on 1 November 1955. Concrete form collapsed at wall site, first mishap of kind during work on flood wall barrier, and $1,748 worth of concrete spills. 28 November, Army engineers officially turn over flood wall to City of Maysville, city to be responsible for its operation and maintenance. Has this wall paid for itself? I believe so. This is a picture of 1964, and I can barely remember as a child the water way up on the flood wall near my parents' house in the east end of Maysville. March of 1997, I'm standing next to the flood wall barriers put in place to keep 6 feet or 7 feet of river out of downtown Maysville. How about the wall since it's been finished? So far, it has not had to deal with the 75-foot river levels of 1937. Let's hope it stays that way and not get tested. But on the Maysville side, here are a few murals that's been painted on that flood wall in recent years. I'm standing on what was Front Street here in Maysville, Kentucky. Back before the flood wall was built, there was a whole gaggle of big, tall buildings here facing the Ohio River. Even Jacob Boone's Tavern was over here on this side near the Limestone Street area. But the water levels of 1937, where it rose up to 74.425 feet, or in other words, 3 feet shy of the top of this wall, this would have been a very nice thing to have in those days. It would have protected the city from the huge losses they incurred during the 1937 flood. Most of the buildings I'm talking about here along Front Street were heavily damaged. In the 1960s, during urban renewal, it was decided to condemn these buildings and get them torn down. Regardless of what your opinion is on having the flood wall in town, as far as seeing the river or not, it is here for a reason. It has protected the city even as soon as 1997. So thanks for watching. Remember, Jesus does love you. I have more historical videos coming soon about the Maysville, Kentucky area. We'll see you next time. Oh, that's a tall wall.